good, but we had testing mode enabled, and so it was not actually live. So I apologize to anyone who is just coming in now, but welcome in. We are in the middle of round one here. We'll do a quick intro after this round, but we're just going to get right into the action here and not miss anything, and then we'll do our whole intro after this round. So we are looking at round one, Doc28 versus Noverb. Doc28 is up one game over Noverb. Doc28 on a Huru aggro tempo deck, and Noverb on a heavy shadow deck, but Argenport using the Justice to support the shadow cards.
Yeah, the cast in the shadow is one of the mainstays to that, and also actually having a smuggler, which is a very powerful thing I hear in Eternal.
Absolutely, yeah. When I was experimenting with the new expedition format, I was looking at a lot of mono faction decks, and I think that for the most part, monofaction is pretty well supported, except for the fact that you want your smugglers. And so there's almost no reason to run pure monofaction. You can run a monofaction deck plus a smuggler, essentially. And Noverb isn't going completely that direction, but this deck is very heavy shadow with, a light touch of Justice to support it and get the smuggler, and then allows you to play some really powerful cards too, like Cast into Shadow and even Seraph, although question whether that's really necessary in this deck at all.
Yeah, last game, Noverb was on the defense the entire game, but this game, the cast in a shadow here, killing both of those, or potentially taking out the Avergraft, or the Curse of Provocation, I guess, but probably the Avergraft, because the Curse of Provocation is not going to do much right now. They're going to be able to attack and deal damage. It's not going to matter too much. They could also get rid of the Permafrost and the Carvet as well, but. They do not have a Tazboo in their hand right now, but if they ever draw a Tazboo, they're going to kick themselves for not killing that Avergraft. Okay, so what do they go for? Are they going to go for the Permafrost plus the Siditi line? Oh, they go for the Avergraft line. There you go.
Yeah, so I don't think they can go Permafrost and Siditi, because I believe if you decimate, it has to be the same faction. So I think you would have to go Justice and Justice there, which means if you want to take care of the Siditi, you'd have to go with the Avergraft. You couldn't hit the Permafrost there.
That's true.
All right, good play, though. But Doc28's got a Siditi in reserves here with an 8/8. 8/8 flyer on its own, still pretty tough to beat. But Noverb does have that edict.
Noverb has an Edict of Makar in their hand that can easily take out this 8/8, and they can continue smashing forth. This might even be a close to a concession from Doc, and there you go. Doc is a fan of the concede early, I believe, from what I've played for them, and I agree with the concession there. There was nothing to be done.
Yep, absolutely.
It might even have been lethal. I don't know. I didn't count. I'm a caster.
So that's 1-1. Noverb is going to tie that up. These are, as we mentioned, these are two great players going at it here. Doc28 taking the first one fairly easily. Noverb fairly easily taking the second one. That time they had the right answers. I think getting the Edict there, now obviously the situation was different, but we can see how getting the Edict there was a little bit more effective against those Siditis, whereas last game getting stuck with the Malediction in the hand really bit Noverb. And whether or not it was the right decision at the time, I bet he definitely felt bad grabbing that and not really being able to cast it the whole game. Definitely felt better on the right side of things this time.
Yeah, for sure. For those of you who are just tuning in, the first game was not shown on stream, but Noverb ended up smuggling for a Malediction, and the Malediction is probably pretty effective against their deck, but they found exactly one target for the Malediction instead of like 2 or 3 targets, which is what they really wanted from it. All right, and players have not got into game yet. It's 1-1 between Noverb and Doc28 right now.
All right. Well, while we're doing that, I'll pull up the deck list view here, since didn't get a chance to do that. So we went through this deck list here. This is the Doc28's Huru deck list. So you've got Crownwatch Paladins, Little Icaria, Varet. We talked about how it is a low-to-the-ground tempo deck backed up by removal and tempo plays. But then the new cards introduced, Huru Pacifier, Siditi the Killing Steel, made this deck, gave this deck an ability to go a little bit bigger and a little bit different options. And I mentioned before the broadcast that this type of deck used to play Daring Griffin, and that used to be a key card in the deck, being able to protect themselves from Wraths and then put flying on top of some of your units. But that's a little awkward with the Huru Pacifier, and that's not really the direction you want to go anymore, also being a little more heavy Justice. So it was an interesting challenge to give these players a little bit of a trade-off of which direction do you want to go. Do you want to go the pacifier route, the Siditi route, going a little heavier justice, a little bit larger, or do you want to go more low to the ground and then end top of your curve with Daring Griffin? And it looks like Doc28 took the bigger route here, going heavier justice and bigger threats to be able to compete a little bit late into the later game with likely with the shadow decks and the other removal heavy decks.
Yeah, for sure. As far as there's actually an interesting market card in Doc28's deck, and that's Reign the Unwavering. That should prove to be pretty solid market grab for him against the mainly mono shadow deck, splashing for a couple of cards that are still shadow, pretty much.
Right.
Including the removal, the Cast in the Shadows removal still can't target Reyna, so I think that's going to be extremely effective and a very good addition to the deck.
All right, and let's get ready for game 3. So these players are tied at 1 game apiece here.
They're just getting into the game now, I believe. Yes.
All right, and Noverb's looking at a hand, pretty good hand here. They've got Incarnus, Tazbu, Carvet. That's kind of the 3 big hitters, the 3 big shadow hitters in the format. You get incredible value off of all 3 of those cards, topped off by Duza's Office, which does not have in hand. But pretty solid hand here for Noverb. It's a little bit slow out of the gates, but they do have a Fenris Nightshade on too. So if they can survive past the early turns, then I really like Noverb's chances here. And they're actually on the play, which is going to be pretty crucial. That's going to be huge for Noverb to start on the play here.
Yeah, and Doc doesn't have they don't have a turn 1 play in the deck, do they? Yeah, they get out the Fenris Nightshade. Next turn, they're going to be able to draw. And that's basically what you're looking at as these mono shadow decks, is to draw off of the Fenris, basically on curve. They might actually end up Varus favoring, though, this turn. It might be like is it worth the risk to get 2 draw steps to get an undepleted source? We'll see whether or not Noverb thinks it's worth the risk. They do. They decide to draw, and they hit the Argiport Insignia right off of it. So they're basically going to.
It was a bold attack here. Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess realizing that there's
they can't really block.
Yeah,
they can't really block because they have Perul's Choice or Finest Hour. So yeah, I think the attack is actually correct there.
Yeah, the only question is whether you want to draw that out of their hand, knowing that you're trading away your 3/2 there just to save some damage and get out of their hand. But they go for the attack instead here. Doc is going to grab Edict out of the market here. Pretty good start for them, and they're able to play Yisha next turn as well. So pretty good curve out from Doc. Noverb's got the high end though.
Yeah, now they're going to make the attack again. They might trade off here. They do not, and no, they go for the Incarnus there. I was thinking maybe they could go for the Seraph plus Var's favorite plan in order to be able to start activating the Seraph next turn or being able to cast the Tazbu, but they instead go for the Incarnus this turn, and they get a Devour off of it. Their options must not have been very good if they go for a Devour, but
that'll pay off here with the permafrost on there. That's a good way to get rid of permafrost.
Yeah.
My fear for Noverb is are they going to have enough time to deploy all these big threats that they have? Doc28's doing a lot of damage, putting him down to 12 with a lot of power on the board right now.
Yeah, the Doc28 correctly identified the fact that they really should be getting this Varad into Aegis range, right? They don't want to end up having their curve out being able to be stunted here. But I mean, Noverb, if they had top decked the power there, they wouldn't have been able to slam the Tazbu. And I don't know, does Doc28 have a card in their hand to deal with the Tazbu?
Well, they can trade a unit and a Finest Hour to get rid of it, which maybe they would have to have
another
do.
Finest Hour. Yeah.
Wouldn't be a bad play.
Yeah. So is Noverb going to end up deploying their two drop units, or are they going to end up playing this Var's favor? Okay, they end up going for the riskier line. They need to get a power off the top in order for this to be truly effective. Unless, of course, Doc decides to play like a CDT or something like that. That would be actually not too bad for Noverb because they have the Cast in the Shadow in their hand, and they're able to tempo out a Var's favor plus a Cast in Shadow, but that's not going to happen. And so Doc decides to trade their finest hour for the Seraph. None of these Seraph shenanigans. The Seraph can randomly hit something that's crazy for Noverb that might turn the tide,
That's true.
and Doc doesn't want their tournament life decided by chance.
Unfortunately,
And,
though, there's the Tazboo, and using that Finest Hour last turn means that Doc28 does not have a way in hand to get through the Tazboo. They can play the Yisha as a big unit, but Noverb is going to be able to go to their turn without, living another turn here with Doc28 having nothing left in hand.
yeah, so Doc28 plays the Isha, but that's not it's effective. It's okay on this board, but the Tazboo is definitely stunting the board
Yeah,
state
and
right
here
now.
comes Carvet. So, as we talked about, just being able to get, once you start to hit that middle ground in Shadow, once you're able to get the value off of Incarnus and then, hit these 5 and 6 drops, those are really powerful. And it's really hard for the Hoover deck to get past threats like that.
Yeah, and here Noverb can set up for the Dizo's office next turn and still be able to cast into Shadow, taking out the Yisha and the Icaria, and I think they're probably going to end up doing that. Okay, so they decided to go for the 3/4, just setting it up for next turn so they can Dizo's office it, and yeah, they're probably going to cast into Shadow, killing the two of them. Well, actually, they might be thinking about not casting Shadow, decimating, just casting a Shadow. Okay, they decided to go for both of them. You know what? They're probably going to hit power off this Devour anyway on one of their permafrost units.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, and just getting rid of both of those threats, and then that allows you to start really attacking comfortably here. And now that's going to start gaining life from the Carvet, which is going to start really hurting Doc28's plans. So you can start gaining life. The Devour is going to draw them 2 cards, gain 2 more life. Actually, draw 3 cards.
3 cards. Yep. All right, and they're going to end up being able to play the Dizo's office this turn. Interesting that whether or not they emblem and activate. They probably will, though. They don't need the power anymore. Not for this turn, at least.
Ooh, and this is tough break for Doc28. Their deck is not set up to come back from games like this from that far behind. Their deck is set up to win the early game, not to come back from that.
Yeah, they need to press their tempo advantage, and once the shadow-based deck's set up, there's really nothing you can do against them. And we didn't even see the final form of the shadow deck there. They would have Noverb would have just been able to go grab a Vara out of the market, and they already had the smuggler in hand. So they would have been gained the same amount of value there. The game was over already, and the game had just begun for the shadow for the shadow deck. The tables had already turned.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see. We're going to go see. There's still a lot of games here going on. Looks like Mono J took it 2-1 over Mediocre, and that's the only other match that is finished now. So let's see if any of our other featured players are going. Looks like Gold 47 is going here. Gold 47 is going up against John Holio. So I'm going to pull up Gold 47 here, and we'll go down and get some bonus coverage here.
Yeah, let's I'll take a look at Gold 47.
All right, and it looks like Gold 47 here, a little bit on the back foot, but John Holio is down to 5, so I shouldn't even say that. Gold 47's got John Holio down to 5 and has a 7-7 Zumicon down as well as a 3-2 Smuggler, so they've got some pressure and able to finish it. John Holio, likely with that attack, must have some way to deal with these threats here. That they do. They're going to permafrost the Zumicon there.
One of the things I learned from this weekend in the ECQ was how busted Zumicon was. The Xena Index didn't make it past top 64, but I will tell you that Zumicon was a large reason why at least Bruised by God and Bardine made it to the top 64. That card is a house, and certainly a reason to adjust your power base accordingly, for sure.
And I was just about to say, Gold 47 has the...
They'll be able to trigger the master here, which is really nice. That puts John Holio down to 3, and they have a 3-5 and a 4-3, both lethal threats. Can John Holio draw something to get them out of here? And they do not.
They do not.
Actually, we don't know what the
John Holio
score
had
that was.
John Holio had 2 power in hand there at the end, so unfortunately they were not able to pull that off. Let's see here. While we're waiting to know what happened there, we'll pull up Gold 47's deck. So you all can take a look at that while we're seeing what game number that was. See, it looks like no games had been reported yet, so that may be.
Okay. The Gold 47 actually ended up winning that 2-1.
2-1. Okay, so 2-1.
Yeah, so
to
that
Gold
was the last
47.
game.
Very good. Okay, you can always count on Uric to be one of the later ones. Usually playing a slower control deck. So let's see what Uric versus Papa Capricorn here. So here we go, down to the action. Looks like we've got Uric at the bottom here. Just went off with the Diesel's office to get Diesel. Papa Capricorn having a 5-3 relic weapon and a 4-4 lifesteal on the board. One player at 33, one player at 29 with 3 armor. You gotta love that when you jump into a match.
That's right. Uric gets the one of Grinva in their deck. They ended up playing the Vara, grabbing a Hidden Road Smuggler with Killer. Interestingly enough, it's obviously not going to do anything here, but I think they're probably going to end up grabbing this Age-Worn Vestige for maybe not though. No, they do grab the Age-Worn Vestige for a little insurance against whatever they're doing. Papa Capricorn though does have the Dragon Forge. What do they have in their deck that they can search for?
Carve it probably, but let's see, they got Age-Worn Vestige out of there, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's all right. They do need 2 more power in order for that to be an effective option. Well, 1 more power.
1 more, yeah. So actually, because it reduced the cost by 1, that's actually relevant here. Because it reduced the cost by 1, they actually only need 1 more power if they want to wait on that. But yeah, and they're going to have to wait on that, I think.
Uric has said the score of the match is 1-1, so this is game 3.
This is game 3.
So this is probably the final game of the round, even though some of them haven't reported, I'm sure.
All right, so Papa Capricorn at 30 health, but Uric pretty solid board state here. Oh, and Incarnus with a Vara out is pretty good. That's an insane amount of value.
Yeah, I wonder what they're getting out of the Void. They get another Hidden Road Smuggler potentially.
They got a spur on out of the Incarnus, which not the best choice here, but sometimes you don't get great options with Incarnus. But they actually got the 5/5 Lifesteal Dragon out of that. So Papa Capricorn is really relying on hitting undepleted power here. I think this is it. They have to hit it here, or else it's game over.
Another Dragon Forge. That's not going to do it though. They really need to hit just undepleted power, but that does thin their deck so they can draw the power.
They did not draw the undepleted power. They pulled a Carve It off of that, and they drew a removal spell. But I don't think that's going to be enough.
That's 14, and they still have a bunch of damage in play. Yeah. Oh, and of course, Uric top decks the power to so that the Carve It can't even block it anymore.
And that's going to be game. And Uric is going to take that one 2-1. So well played by Uric. That looked like a pretty sweet match there. Hopefully we get to see some more of that action in future rounds.
Sure, for sure.
Alrighty, so let's see what we've got here. Let's see some of these results coming in.
Yeah, Mono J won against Mediocre 2-1. Papa Capricorn, of course, won against Uric won against Capricorn 2-1, and Noverb, as you saw earlier, won versus Doc28 2-1. The rest of the matches haven't been reported yet, I don't think. Hold on a second.
Yeah, looks like we're still waiting on.
Oh no, there's 1 match still left to go. Western Cancer versus Brody.
All right, let's see if we can hop into that one.
They're not in game right now. So we'll see whether or not there's going to be a report, or whether or not we have another game to show. But the other matches are Sleffer 1 versus Tempest Dragon King 2-1. And Gold 47, we already knew that. Captain Team Bro beat Loco Pojo 2-1. And Keith Peleg defeated Jedi EJ 2-1.
All right, looks like I just put the standings up here on the screen, so we should be able to take a look at those. As we said, we're all but it looks like one match here, although those players are not currently in a match.
Oh,
So
okay, so Brody took that 2 games to 0, actually.
Brody took that 2 games to 0. Okay.
Yeah.
So while we're getting that, what I want to do is do a quick intro for those because we lost out on that intro here. So we'll switch over back here real quick. So welcome everybody to Tuesday Night Eternal. I apologize for having the stream in test mode previously, so you missed the beginning. But my name is Andrew Parnell, Telemokos, and with me tonight I have the Overmaster, who's generously taken his time to hang out with us tonight on this special edition of Tuesday Night Eternal. This is the Holiday Invitational. So what this means is that this event was open to invite only to any of the players who have made the top 4 in one of our previous events. So we ran about 8 events in the fall of the year, and so if you made the top 4 of that, you were entered into this tournament. We've had 16 of the top competitors join tonight, and the prize pool is actually $250 to the top 4. So pretty nice prize pool there. Thankful to all the donations that made that possible. We appreciate it. There's still time to donate as well. All of that money is coming from donations for the prizes. So if you would like to donate, it's very easy to do so. You can see a link down below, but it's paypal.me/Tuesday Night Eternal. So we accept all donations. Thank you everyone for being so supportive to help us build up this prize pool so we can run these awesome tournaments for folks. So the way this is going to work, it's an exciting dual format. So what that means is that we're going to do the Swiss rounds, which we're in right now. We're at the end of round 1 in the expedition format. Rounds are going to be a little bit quicker. We're going to see some nice expedition decks. And then when we cut to the top 4, the top 4 single elimination playoff is actually going to be throne format. So we're going to have to test the players to be able to stay on their feet and not just fall in love with one deck. They're going to have to be able to play both the expedition format and then switch gears in the top 4 and play in a throne format. So it's going to be a little bit challenging, keep people on their feet in order to take home that prize money. So what do you think of that format, Overmaster?
I think it's pretty good. I love formats where you have to bring more than one deck. You need to prepare a little more heavily for them. And the ability to switch back and forth between decks. In this case, it's not switching back and forth. You just switch once. But that is a skill that a few players. Well, I mean that a lot of players don't. They're not. The ECQ doesn't allow for that kind of experience, right? Mm-hmm. So we've had those kinds of tournaments in the past, in the ECL in particular. One specific invitation in the ETS was also set up that way, and those have always been the most fun for me. Where I prepare 2 decks. 2 or more decks, and come in and I'm able to play both decks, and they could potentially be 2 different styles of decks too, which is great for just in case you get a little bored of playing the same deck, right? It's great for the tournament experience.
Absolutely,
at least in my opinion.
All right, and then one quick thing. So just that we finished round 1, one quick thing. So we've got a couple exciting things here tonight. So we have after round 2, so after the next round, what we're going to do is we do have a special preview card from the new campaign. So we'll be revealing that after the end of round 2. One thing that I wanted to remind everyone for the end at round 1 here was that another piece of feedback we had from everyone. Thanks again for all the generous feedback that you provided. One of the pieces of feedback we had was that a lot of people were interested in these competitive events, these fun Tuesday Night Eternal events, but this time frame didn't work for everybody. Some people live in Europe, some people have night jobs, lots of different reasons somebody can't play at this time frame. So what we did is we are putting together the first ever Tuesday Night Eternal League, and what this allows us to do is for the month of January, we're going to set up a league where you can play asynchronously. So you can play at your own pace, you can play mornings, you can play evenings, whenever fits your schedule, and the people that are in your bracket are going to be the individuals that share similar schedules, similar play times. So if you play at, let's say 8 a.m. to noon on weekday mornings, you're going to be paired against in the bracket with the other people that play 8 a.m. to noon on weekday mornings. And so you'll be able to get a game and you'll be able to play at your own pace. And then what will happen is you'll play all these matches over the course of January. And then at the end of the month, after you've played everybody, it'll be round robin. We'll cut to the top 2 players of each of the 4 brackets who will then go into a top 8. And then we'll set that up on a weekend when we think it can fit everyone's schedule. And we'll do a top 8 single elimination playoff. off. So for all of you who are interested or know anyone who's interested in participating in these events, but maybe the schedule doesn't work out for them, this is an opportunity for everybody to join together and play at their own pace. So pretty exciting opportunity there. I feel like something that will be a little bit different and get more people involved in these events.
Yeah, for sure. I signed up for it.
I signed up for it as well.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, everyone. We're going to take a quick 3-minute break. Thank you all for hanging out tonight. I apologize again for the early tech issues, but we're all good now. So take a quick 3-minute break, and then we'll see you in 3 minutes for round 2. Thanks, everyone.